Greetings and welcome back to very, very early spring, Old Ways Rising Farm. The first crocuses are up, and if you're anything like me and you really love the land and the gardens and want to get out and do something, you want to get out and do something. But there's always a danger in this because it's too early to plant the beans and the tomatoes and even the peas at this point. But there's still quite a few things we can do in this pre-season month, whether it comes in March or April or early May, depending on where you live. There's quite a few things that we can do to start moving the ball forward and take some of the workload off of ourselves later in the primary planting season. So I put together this little video of early season garden activities. It's just a little anthology of mini clips. I hope it gives you some ideas and a little bit of early spring enjoyment. Come join. So one very important spring chore is keeping an eye on any seeds that you have stratifying. So these chestnuts I have had in the fridge for, about a month or so now. These were actually the same seeds that were part of an earlier video this year on stratifying seeds. And you can see they're starting to grow roots out. So that means these guys need to go into the ground. They are ready to go into the ground when they start to germinate. Okay? They will tell you when it's time to put them in the ground. If it's too early to put the pot outside, just keep it indoors. I like to keep mine indoors anyway, and just to keep the critters out of them, to keep the mice from digging up the seeds. They don't have to be in a bright space until they are sprouting and starting to grow leaves. So you could even put them inside under a table, just keep an eye on them. Once they start to sprout, then you need to pull them into a bright window or set the pot outside. Now, I just put these with the roots coming out the tip. That goes down. Just set them on the ground here. Okay. I like to fill these large pots, the bottom half with native soil, and I will go out into a healthy forest and get a little bit of forest ground there so that I'm inoculating it with the normal, happy microorganisms. Okay. I'll just set all of these out.
The chickens are really excited about life.
The chickens are really excited about life. Root tip down. Okay. So yeah, this is a mixture of just some nice rich garden soil and a little scoop of some forest ground. That's the cheapest, easy way to get at least some mycorrhizae in here. Okay, almost done. Ones that have it farther out, make a little divot with your finger. Don't just push it in or you'll snap off that root. Ones that are just starting to swell, you don't need to worry so much about. So I'm looking at the tips of each of these. The sooner you can get them after you start to see the majority swell, the better, because you'll break fewer roots. And they're only going to be in this pot for a month or so after they germinate, so I'm not worried about spacing distance here. I will pop them out of this pot and plant them as soon as they have 3 or 4 leaves. So yes, this is way too dense a planting for a nursery bed or a pot that you're planning to grow them in long term. But all they're going to do is germinate. This is just a ploy to germinate them without the critters getting to them. Now for the top layer, I like to use commercial sterile potting soil because it doesn't have weed seeds. Okay. So we have some mycorrhizae in the bottom, and we have nice sterile soil on top, and those are officially planted. A most excellent early spring activity is planting woody vegetation. So your woody trees and shrubs, the only danger to planting them too early is frost heat. So once you can till the ground and are past the point that the ground will freeze 1 or 2 feet deep, you're totally safe to go ahead and plant dormant woody trees and shrubs. Okay? So I have some peaches over here, and I have a Red Haven, which is a nice classic early variety of peach. I have an Encore, which is a late variety of peach, and a Contender, which is a mid-season variety of peach. Now here in cold climates, Contender and Reliance, I don't have a Reliance, but Contender and Reliance are the two most cold hardy peaches that there are. And Encore is a nice mix with those because it's a later flowering and ripening variety, so you will often get yourself past some of those late frosts that tend to nuke flowers here on peach trees in northern climates. Okay? So this is a bare root tree. I've had these for a couple of weeks, healed into some shavings, some moist shavings. I've dug my hole. This is double dug and amended with some nice compost, and it's a nice big well amended hole. There's a whole video on planting bare root trees that I did last year, so I'm not going to go over all of the details. But do dig a big hole, do amend the soil in your hole, don't fertilize. Never fertilize trees the year you plant them. You're very likely to burn them out. Okay? So I want to check my roots, spread them all out as much as I can. I want to go a little bit deeper there. I already dug all of this out and amended it. So all I'm doing here is just kind of trimming the sides a little bit. And we'll put in our tree. We want to make sure that the graft union is above grade. Put some loose soil around it. Give it a shake to kind of bounce the fines down in and around all of those roots. Pull it back around. That was perfect depth. Graft union just a couple inches above ground. And we have one very planted happy peach tree.
Alright, so I am working on clearing out all the old duff out of this garden bed here. You can see the tall stuff is goosefoot that we let go a little bit too much last year. So after I am done, we are going to amend the soil and plant vegetables in this garden bed. So I was picking more goosefoot stalks to get this bed ready for planting, and I had a really exciting discovery. Those shoots are from garlic that I seem to have missed last year. But now that means that we have more garlic coming up this year. And that's just really exciting.
Early season is also a good time to look at pasture repair and pasture management. So this is a section of pasture that got a lot of love from the animals that were in it. It's right around where they were being fed and watered, so there was a lot of time spent and a lot of attention played to the grass in this area. And it just needs a little real love now from a bag of seed. So, frost seeding is a thing that you can do. There's two reasons to frost seed. One is your seed needs to stratify. I have other videos on stratification. I'm not going to dwell on that now. But suffice it to say, some seeds need a cold period. If that's the case, do it in the fall so that you can have the full cold season. But here in the spring, you can take seed that doesn't need stratified And you can put it down and it will just spring up when the soil reaches the right temperature. So you can get this planting chore done really early so it's not competing for time with your main planting chores in the main planting season. Okay? Now, there are some hunting magazine articles out there saying that frost seed is just the most amazing thing ever. It's perfect, it's magical. You don't need to till, you don't need to do anything. It just happens, right? And that's BS, right? If you want to establish a new planting, you should still till. Okay? All the normal rules of agriculture apply. But what I'm doing here isn't establishing a new planting. It's just coming into some bare patches and doing that, right? And spreading around a little bit of seed. I have some orchard grass, I have some bird's foot trefoil, and I have some red clover. So I'm just going to go around with each bag, and everywhere I see some bald patches, throw down a little bit of seed to help the grass recover. Okay? Does it absolutely need to happen? No. You see all these little grass clumps in here? They would fill in on their own. But this will help it fill in a bit faster and reestablish and rejuvenate a little bit quicker. And it's a great thing to do in the early season. The last thing I want to talk about doing here in the preseason is onion sets. So just like woody trees and shrubs, onion sets can go in just as soon as you can get your fingers in the soil. So onions are actually a hardy perennial in most of North America. They're really, really tough little plants. They won't sprout out of their set until the soil is warm enough for them to do so, and they're really not susceptible to early season rot if you get a wet, cold spell the way potatoes are. So, these onions can go in just as soon as you can possibly wiggle the little bulbs in. And I'm just planting these here. This is the small-scale hugel mound that we did on the channel last year. There's video of building this little mound, and this was a marvelous garden. Even in last year's super drought that just wrecked most of my gardens, this patch produced really nice tomato crop right up through. They didn't go down the way most of the rest of my gardens went down and failed. So we're going to put some onions in here and some beans up there and some sort of ground cover or cover crop to hold the weeds down. I'm just going to go along and weed as I plant. And I hope that you feel inspired to go do some early season gardening, and I'll see you next time here at Old Ways Rising Farm.
Sound check. 1, 2, 3. Yaskier, what are you doing? What are you doing?